So here we go. Welcome to this No Bowl Piano webinar. Let me go through what that intro video was going to tell you. So I'm just going to go through it real quick. First of all, why I created a No Bowl Piano is because, quite frankly, I've seen a lot of bad information online. You go to YouTube and there's all different teachers. I mean, there's some great information. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of great players, a lot of great teachers, but a lot of times, you're kind of left holding the bag halfway through. You're trying to figure out what lesson do I do next, or the teacher just doesn't know how to get you to that next, that next level. I've been doing this a long time. I've been teaching, like almost 35 years now. And I've been touring and playing and recording and all that good stuff. So I know that these techniques work. So No Bowl Piano is designed to just give you some no BS stuff, right? I'm going to be kind of in your face on this stuff, meaning that I'm going to be a little bit of tough love, right? I'm not going to swear at you or yell at you, right? Or get mad at you, but I'm going to tell you straight up, look, this is what you got to do. If you want to get to that next level, this is what you got to do. So if that works for you, great. Then I think you're going to really enjoy the No Bowl Piano webinar series. If that doesn't work with you and you want a little softer approach, I suggest checking out my homeschoolpiano.com lessons, or just go to JAZZEDGE.com. The lessons there's 670 plus hours of lessons in which it's all just hand holding and whatnot. No Bowl Piano is really kind of like for that student who's like, all right, why is it that I'm still here, right? I've been playing for years and I'm still in the same spot. So this stuff is for you. I'm going to be doing this every other week, so if you happen to miss one of them, make sure you go to nobowlpiano.com, put your name and email address in so that you get the reminders for the webinar. If you're already on the email list, there's no need to do that. You're all set. Just keep checking your email. If you're looking for the sheet music, the replay, the backing tracks, all of that kind of stuff, you're definitely going to want to check out a JAZZEDGE membership. All right, so that was the little intro there. So now let's get out to some good stuff. Okay, all right, so today we're going to be focusing on effortless minor improvisation. One thing that to note as well with this webinar is that the lessons are not necessarily going to be in any particular order, all right? So sometimes some of the concepts are going to be kind of more advanced, some of the concepts are going to be a little bit easier, but when you go back to JAZZEDGE or Piano with Willie and you take a look at the No Bowl Piano course, all of the lessons there will be structured and in order. So what I mean is like next week, or I'm sorry, in 2 weeks, if the lesson is a little bit easier, well, that will go before this one. If the next one is a little bit harder, it'll go after this one. So in the course, that's where you'll see all of the lessons presented in their proper order. Okay, I'm going to teach for about 30 minutes and then I'm going to be answering your questions. So be sure to have your questions handy and ready. I'll be answering them through chat. So if you want to start thinking about your questions, you can, I'll answer questions for about 20-30 minutes afterwards. All right, so, sorry about that. Let's fix this here. Okay, so got 5 questions to answer, okay, and to ask, right? The very first question is, are we playing group or solo? All right. Now that's a really important question when we're talking about improvisation, because if we're playing in a group, then that's going to affect what it is that we're going to do with our left hand, okay? So we're going to play, different chord voicings with the left hand if we're playing with a group versus solo, all right? So that's going to be the first question that we have to answer for ourselves when it comes to improvisation. The next question is, do you own the progression, okay? And I'm going to tell you right now, if you don't know the progression, I mean know it. Like, okay, it's 4 measures of C minor, then it does, 2-5 to B flat and does this, then it's going to be almost virtually impossible for you to improvise freely. Okay. Now, of course, we can always sit down and we can just improvise, like do anything. All right. Like, I mean, any kind of playing like that that's not written down, that you're just kind of doing on the spot, we can call that improvisation. Now, is it going to sound like garbage? Yeah, probably will. All right. So if we want to make our improvisation not sound like garbage, and we want it to sound good and structured and actually turn some heads, and people are like, oh, hey, that's really cool, then we have to know the progression of the song that we're working on. The reason I mention that is because these 5 questions, a lot of times students don't think about that. All they do is they get right into it, like, oh, I want to improvise. What's the scale that I use to improvise? Right? Yeah, no. Before you start getting into that scale stuff, you have to make sure that you know the progression. Next question, do you own the chord voicing? You need to be able to play that chord voicing nice and solid without messing up, all right, in that left hand. If you can't play that chord voicing strong, then you're not going to be able to improvise over the top. Remember, then we're going to be talking more group playing, which I'll explain in a second. But anyway, if that chord voicing, or whatever the left hand is doing, all right, by and large, is our accompaniment to our improvisation in the right hand. Wait a second, Willie, can't you improvise with the left hand? Can't you move between the 2 hands? Yes. Of course, we could do all of that, but that's a super advanced concept, all right? And quite frankly, if you're improvising between the 2 hands and just doing left hand improvisation and comping in the right hand, then probably you're like already outgrown a lot of these lessons anyways, okay? So typically for most players, you're gonna be playing chords in the left hand or some type of left hand accompaniment while you improvise in the right hand. So that means you have to own that chord voicing in the left hand. If you're playing solo, that means you got to own that bass line. Whatever the left hand accompaniment is, you have to own it, all right? Next, do you own your rhythm? Okay? If your rhythm stinks, then your improvisation is going to stink. Too often, students forget about rhythm. They're so focused on what notes do I play, they never even consider what rhythm do I play. Remember, Art Blakey said it, all right? The famous jazz drummer. The drummer is the engine, all right? They're the engine of the train, okay? They're the rhythm. Rhythm is your engine. Rhythm is king. If you play with good, solid, interesting rhythm, your improvisation is immediately going to sound better, even if you're just playing simple notes, okay? Finally, do you own the scale? Okay, so now the scale is like, that's really the bread and butter of our improvisation, isn't it? I mean, we gotta kind of know scales, and when I say scales, that could be any of the notes for improvisation. That could be your chord tones, that could be 4-note or 3-note sequential patterns, okay? Anything like that. Anything that you're doing in the right hand. Right now, I'm just calling it a scale, okay? So anything you're doing in the right hand for improvisation, do you own it? Or are you kind of searching around when I'm playing a C minor chord, you're like, I don't know, maybe I should do an E natural? I mean, if that's what you're thinking, then you're not ready yet for that step, okay? Remember, one thing I like to do is I like to break everything down into steps to make it easier for you, okay? What I've learned is that too often, you know, and this is what, like I said, like this is the whole no BS thing. I see this in teachers. I see this in students. It's like completely putting the cart before the horse. All right. Hey, work on this, work on this. Well, yeah, sure, work on that. But if you don't know the progression and your chord voicing, then it don't matter if you know your scale. All right. So let's move on. Like I said, we're going to focus on group playing. Now, just a little tidbit of what I mean by group playing. That basically means you're playing with a bass player, okay? So if somebody is going to be taking care of the bass motion of the chord, then you could be playing rootless chord voicings. If you're playing with a singer, right, and a drummer, but there's no bass player, guess what? You're going to be playing the bass. So in that case, it's almost solo playing again, even though you're playing with other musicians, okay? So when I'm thinking solo versus group, I'm really talking, do you need to lay down the bass motion, or is there a bass player there to lay down that motion for you, okay? We're going to have a band that is going to lay down that bass motion for us, and we're going to be using iReal Pro. Right? Now, if you're not familiar with iReal Pro, it is a great piece of software that I did not write and I had nothing to do with, okay? So number one, take a look. If you need any type of technical help with it, you have to go to iRealPro.com. Don't ask me or write in about it because I can't give you support on that. I can tell you, though, that it is a fabulous piece of software. It works on your phone, on your tablet or on Mac computers. They don't make it for a PC. But if you have a phone, and it doesn't matter if it's an iPhone or an Android, just has to be a smartphone, okay, that can install apps, or if you have a tablet, either an Android tablet or a iPad tablet, okay, you could get iReal Pro on there. And then I have the desktop version on the Mac. So if you have a Mac, definitely suggest that you get it, all right? It's a great piece of software. Something to note, really all it is, it just gives you the chord changes to the song. No melody, okay? There's no melody in the song. It gives you the chord changes, but as you'll see in a second, it also gives you a play-along track. That's what I was playing along to in the very beginning of this session, okay? Now, the other thing you need to know, and I've gotten burnt on this before, I've like recommended software, used software, and then the company goes belly up, and then I have videos that, you know, because this all of this stuff doesn't go stale. So this video might be here 5, 6, 10 years from now, and iReal Pro might be long gone. So if that's the case, I'm not responsible for that, so get it while you can, all right? It's a great piece of software. And finally, the last thing is, software costs money. I'll be honest with you. What you get in that software, worth every penny. So I highly recommend that you check out iReal Pro. It's definitely well worth the money. All right, so the first thing we're going to start with is the progression, okay? So the progression is just going to be C minor, all right? In fact, let me load it up here. This would be easier for you to see, okay? Let me stop that. All right, so that's our progression right there. Just C minor 7, and we're going to be playing that for 4 measures, and then it repeats, okay, and then it goes up a half step. This is the beauty of that iReal Pro software, is that you can do all of these cool little tricks in your practice. Change the tempo, change the key, repeats, edit it, and whatnot. This right here, you're going to get all of this, all right? So you'll get this whole iReal Pro file that you could download and then put right into iReal Pro. Now, I say you're going to get it if you're a member of the site, okay? So if you're a member of the site, this will be part of the resources. You'll be able to download this and then put that right into iReal Pro. All right, so next, the voicings. Okay, so let's focus on these voicings. I'm going to give you 4 different minor voicings that I want you to learn. Now, again, I'm not going to mince words here. You're going to learn these voicings. If you don't learn these voicings, then don't even bother with the whole improvisation side of things, okay? These are great voicings. You can use them both solo and group. Typically in a solo, you're going to want to hit maybe a root now and again before you hit the chord, but the point is you really want to learn these rootless chord voicings, okay? I'm going to go through them relatively fast. If you need more help on the rootless chord voicings, just go back to JAZZEDGE.com. We have a whole course on rootless voicings, real step-by-step stuff, both majors, minors, dominants, all of that. Okay, so what I have here is 4 different voicings, and you'll notice that what I did was I put in 3, 5, 7, 9. Again, notice I didn't say flat 3, flat 7. It should be assumed at this level that we know that it's a minor chord, so it's a flatted 3 and a flatted 7th. By the way, one thing I didn't mention that I want to mention real quick is I surveyed everybody who participated or signed up for this webinar, and by far what everyone was looking to learn was jazz improvisation. After that was technique, and after that was blues improvisation. So for those of you that filled out the survey, thank you very much, and that's why we're starting with some jazz improvisation first, okay? But remember, these webinars are not all going to just be on jazz improvisation. I'm going to give you a whole slew of different things, right, and some interesting practice ideas that you can implement right away. All right, so the very first voicing is 3, 5, 7, 9, and then the other version of that is you take the bottom 2 notes and just bring them up here, and that's 7, 9, 3, 5, okay? So those are the 2 different voicings for minor 7. Should I learn them in all 12 keys, Willie? Yeah, you bet you should, all right? D minor, right? D flat minor, F minor, okay? So learn the A version and the B version. We call this an open and closed. Notice it's a little bit more closed together. That's a little bit more open. Sometimes we call it an A and a B form, okay? Just basically 2 different renditions of it, all right? Now, you might also say, hey, wait a second, Willie, can I also do that? Just take the 1 note up, right? And could I do that? Absolutely, sure. The only thing is, in the left hand, sometimes those voicings are a little bit tricky, like that half step together. So if that feels a little weird to you, these two voicings, right, have been shown to like be the most versatile. But it doesn't mean that you can't also do that. I'll play that every now and again in my playing as well. This one, a lot of times I'll do it up, but I'll do it in the right hand, along like maybe a root 7 or a root 3/7 in the right hand, or I'm sorry, in the left hand. Okay, so you can absolutely play those different voicings. So the first voicing is that, next voicing is that. Now the only change on these other two voicings, okay, is that I'm replacing the 5th with the 11th. Real neat sound, okay, real nice sound, okay? And then up here, rather than playing the 5th, I play the 11th. So the very first thing that you should do is put your play-along track on and just go through each of the voicings. And then go up to D flat. Isn't that cool? I love that with the 11th. Right, so all I'm doing is I'm just playing that voicing. Well, I should say I'm going through those 4 voicings. I could do them in any order. You can do them straight up, like in exactly the order that I presented them there. You can randomize it, whatever you want to do, absolutely fine. But the point is you get down those chord voicings. So if someone says, hey, F minor, bam, you go right there. G minor, A flat minor, okay? Oops, A flat minor, right? G flat minor, E minor, D minor, D flat minor, C minor, C minor, B minor, B flat minor, A minor, all right? So like you know those voicings cold, okay? You have to have your left hand absolutely solid and cold, down. You own it. You own the left hand. Because when it comes to improvisation, you're not going to be able to think about the left hand while trying to come up with something in the right hand, okay? That would be like, imagine that you're giving a speech, even a speech that's written down, that you're reading for people while you're trying to think of a recipe, okay? Or you're trying to think about what it is that you're going to, like you're writing a story in your head at the same time. Very, very difficult to really focus on 2 things at once, okay? If not impossible, all right? So you have to make sure you have those left-hand voicings down cold, okay? All right, so now, at this point, if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, you're watching a recording of this, I want to thank you very much for joining me. We're not done, don't worry. The live session is going to continue, but this is where I'm going to stop the recording for Facebook and YouTube and stuff like that. So just remember, you can always join me at nobullpiano.com, and you can sign up and get the webinar link, and then join me for the next webinar. So thank you for joining.